Alright, so today we're looking at Lesson 6 in Code.org, Styling Text with Cascade Style Sheets, or Styling Text with CSS, Lesson 6. So the very first part here is we just want to check out the sample website, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on that and show this real quick. And we can see that there's just different types of text here, you know, hey friend, sometimes when I'm feeling down. So you have this different text, and you have different formats for each of these. So I have a dream, you know, JFK's inaugural address, House divided speech, those kind of things. And with the text, all have different formats, styles, fonts, different things like that. So we can see that that's part of this that we're going to work in. And when we do Cascade Style Sheets, when we use Cascade Style Sheets, what we're really doing is allowing us to, you know, see how we have red, red, red. So we can set up basically a format that we can apply to all of these. So we can say that these are all red, these are all going to be italicized, these are all going to be a little smaller, that kind of thing. So let's go ahead and look at part 2. So in part 2, we're just kind of exploring this right here, and it says what changes in this new language making to the page. Well, how is this language different from HTML, and how are the index.html and style CSS files connected? Well, you can see right here in your index.html, this is your main page, that there is a link to style sheet, and it has a reference to the style.css. So if we look over here, then we can see that heading 1 is going to be color blue, and it's going to be text aligned to the center. And heading 2 is going to be right aligned and color red. And if we go back then, so H1 and H2 are formats that we set up in CSS. And so then we can go back here and we can see that here's our H1 and here's our H2. So H1 centered, H2 right aligned, and red where the H1 is blue. Okay, all right, we're going to do some coding, so let's go on to part 3. So in part 3 here, it says the HTML file uses a style sheet. Find the code in the style sheet, click on style.css that is making the H1 heading red. Change the code of the color of the H1 heading from red to a different color. So we can see that our heading that's right here is Old World Record or Odd World Records, and that's red. So if we go here, now we have H1, and they did a really good job here of blanking these out so you don't have to do anything with these. We're going to change this from red to something else. So let's just do blue. And actually when we start typing, you can see that different options pop up. So maybe beige and many different kinds. We're going to go ahead and do blue, and this can actually keep scrolling, so there's a lot of options here, but we're just going to choose blue. All right, so that's kind of how and it automatically changes over here. So that's how you fix that style for that right there. Let's go ahead and move on to part 4. So now in part 4, it says the block of code that gives rules for a particular tag is called a rule set. You can make a new rule set by copying the pattern you see in the rule set for the H1 tag. So I don't know why my cursor is giving me trouble here. Find the CSS rule sheet that determines the styles for the H1 tag. Using the same pattern, write a new rule set that will determine the style tag for H3. So let's go over to here, and we're just going to go ahead and copy this and paste it. But instead of H1, now we want to do H3, and we're just going to change these. All right, so it says, sorry, my computer's just really giving me a difficult time here. I don't know why the website's doing this. Add code to set a different color for the H3 tags. So let's go ahead and since we already have these blue, let's just make this red, just to kind of keep it simple. And now we have those. So then we changed, if we go back to index, we can look at H3, and these are the ones that are H3, and they've been changed. All right, let's go ahead and move on to part 4. Sorry, part 5. And it says experiment with the RGB values in the CSS style sheet. So now we're going to use RGB, which is really cool. So it says find the CSS rule sheet, style sheet. It gives the H1 tag style. and change only the first 0 to 255. So let's go down here, and we can see that we have the RGB value. And this is really nice. You could go on Google and find different RGB values and plug them in. Same thing for H3. So we're just going to change the first value to 255. And there we have a new thing. So what is the RGB color? You know, and it changes it to red. And now it says find the CSS rule sheet for the P tag, and for the paragraph tag, change only the second to 255, and then for the H3 tag, we're going to change the third value. So let's go ahead down here. For paragraph, we're changing this to 255, and for this, we're changing this to 255. So see what it did. So, and RGB, red, green, blue. So obviously our paragraph, when we changed it to 255, it changed it a shade of green. And for the blue, we changed this right here, and we got that to blue, a different shade of blue. And you could, again, you can go online and find different RGB values if you wanted to plug them in. Okay, so let's move on to part 6. All right, so in part 6, we're going to affect the color again. I'm going to scroll this down. It says watch the GIF below to see how you use the RGB color tool. And basically, so we're going to go down here to CSS, and we're going to click on this. And you can see you get this option right here. When you click on this, it'll give you a color option. So let me move this up so we can see this a little bit better. And we can change this, and notice, like if I move here, it gives me an RGB value. Maybe I want it over here. And these RGB values are changing. And so we're going to just go ahead and change the color and make it a different color. See how it's changing over here as well, and this is the RGB value for that. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is just go ahead and change that. I believe it says just for heading 1. Let me take a look here. Yeah, it looks like just for... Let's take a look. So there's our red. So to give them to all the elements of the page. So let's go ahead and you can do that for each one of these. So we'll do that for H3 as well. And I'm going to make that kind of a shade of blue. And I can actually go ahead and copy this right here. And if I go back up to red, I'm going to go ahead and copy this and apply this. There we go. So I already kept it for that. I suppose if I go down here, I can, let's choose like a green. There we go. I like that. Copy that. Place it down here. So then we change the RGB value, and we got the red for this one up here. There. So that's how we do part 6. Let's go ahead and move on to part 7. All right, so part 7 says find the CSS rule sheet in the style sheet that determines the style for the paragraph tag and change the text size of the paragraph and the headings. Okay, so we're going to change the text sizes of the paragraphs and the headings. So let's go here to Style. And we can see that we've got the headings. And then we do need paragraph too, which they don't have that. Oh, it's right down here. So we probably want to keep them somewhat similar, right? So if these are 24, maybe we can change them to 36. And notice that immediately changes over to here. And then paragraph the same. And maybe we'll go smaller on that. We'll make it 12. Oh, that's tough to read. Let's make that 16. Yeah, that's a little better. All right, so that's kind of how you do that. You just go to the style sheet and go ahead and change the font size right here, and right here, and right here. Okay, and they can be anything you want them to be. Okay, and they'll automatically just change over here in the index on your main page. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to step 8. All right, so for part 8 here, we're going to actually add the style sheet. Notice we don't have it here. And so what we're going to do is add this new style sheet that has not been applied to this text yet. So the way to do that, we're just going to copy this over here, this whole thing, and we're going to place it, as it says right here, going to place it within the head tags. And there you go. So it's immediately, it went ahead and applied those styles. So we can see that heading 1 is purple, heading 3 is orange, paragraph is teal, and then those sizes, and man, 6 is really small. Don't think I could read that. All right, but that's how you apply the style sheet to these. Okay, and you know, if you wanted to type it out, you could do that as well. Copying and pasting just makes it way easier, but it is a style sheet, and then make sure it matches up with this right here, style.css. All right, hopefully that helps you with your HTML, and then you have a few more parts here to lesson 6, but this is the skill building stuff, and just wanted to go through that for you. Hopefully that helps you. Good luck.